Hello everyone, so today in this video I'm going to show you how to stamp these two Noolibird jug stamps with some flowers from the Botanical collection, and there's a few of the tiny flowers and leaves in there as well, and we've used the gingham stamp there as well. So I'm going to show you a few techniques using the tiny ink daubers, these ones, and some lovely ink pad colours. Right, so now we're ready to get started. So the first thing I'm going to stamp is the jug stamps, and I'm going to use charcoal to stamp these. So we're going to ink them up with charcoal, the charcoal ink pad, just gently dabbing the ink pad all over the stamp. And as these jug stamps are quite solid, they're like a solid, the design's in reverse, you need to make sure that you've got plenty of ink on those. Okay. Nicely inked up. And when you're stamping, make sure you're stamping on a very smooth surface. So if you're a bit worried about your table being a little bit wobbly or anything, you could use a pad of paper or a hardback book or something to make sure it's totally flat, because any kind of wobbles or bumps are really going to show up with the stamping. So pressing fairly hard for this stamp, as it is such a solid design. And now I'm stamping the smaller stamp with the house design on it. Let's start this again. Right, we're ready to get started. So I'm inking up the larger of the jug stamps first with charcoal ink pad, and then the next thing I'm going to do is, with a cotton bud, I'm going to take the ink away along the back edge of the jug, so that when the flowers come out of the jug, you don't have the back of the jug going across where the flowers are. So there you can see the back of the jug hasn't come out because I took the ink away with the cotton bud. And you can get cotton buds, which these ones are made completely out of card. There isn't any plastic. Right, so now I'm inking up the smaller jug with the house, giving it a good ink, and then I'm going to do the same thing again, removing the ink from the back edge of the jug so that it doesn't go across the flowers when they're stamped. And I'm doing that slightly lower down and about there. There. So now I'm going to put some masking tape down just to mask around the area where I'm going to stamp the gingham. I'm doing a torn edge on the masking tape just to get a, so it's a slightly uneven edge. If you were doing this design on a card, you probably wouldn't need to do this because it would go off the edge of the card anyway, but as I'm doing it on a larger bit of paper, I'm just masking the area where the gingham's going to finish. There you go. Yep, I think that's a good area. So now I am going to make, what I've done here is I've stamped the jug stamp on a piece of rough paper and I'm going to cut around it. So that I can stamp the gingham and it not go over where the jug stamp is. See, so I just put that where the stamp is and I stick it down with a bit of masking tape. And there should be one around here somewhere for the other one. Here it is. So this is one that I've already used for the other stamp. So now those have been masked. Now we're ready to stamp some of the gingham pattern. So we're going to ink up the gingham design. So I'm using split pea Versacolour for this. And I'm going to stamp. You have to remember to ink up the stamp after each stamp, otherwise it would be a lot fainter. And I'm just lining it up by eye. There we go. There we are. Just line it up as best you can. There. So now that's all finished. You can remove these. quite gently. And then we're ready to get started on the all the flowers and ferns and things. So for this design, I've used the Botanical collection of rubber stamps, and I've used a few of the tiny leaves and flowers along with them to fit in some of the gaps. So we'll start, I think, with the fern stamp. So I'm inking up the fern stamp in green tea with a little bit of, maybe a little bit of split pea in the middle. You can sometimes remove a bit of ink and then add some more. So I've used green tea for the outsides, and I'm using some split pea on the inside to get a little bit of colour graduation going on. So I'm using these tiny ink daubers, which are really, really useful for these little botanical stamps. Inking up the middle of it with the split pea, and then we can ink up the outside of the fern using the green tea and get a lovely colour graduation. And then I'm just going to position this here, coming out of that jug. There we go. And next, I think I'm going to do one of the Bluebell 2. This is Bluebell 2. And we're going to use some of the split pea again. And some green tea. These are my favourite colours for foliage. And the dauber's so useful just to ink up the areas that you want. And then these little cotton buds are also really handy to remove bits where you didn't want it. And then for the blue of the bluebells, I've used, this is one of the Icicle ink pads, which has a couple of nice blues that work well with for the bluebell. So I'm using the tiny ink daubers again. To ink up the bluebells. So these tiny ink daubers, they come in packs of 3 like this, and they come without any ink on them, and then you use them with the different colours, and you can wash them and reuse them, or you can have a few packs and leave them with ink on and just reuse them with that colour ink. They're quite good to collect. So we've used the lighter blue of the Icicle, and then I'm going to use some of the darker blue as well. It gives a really lovely effect on the bluebells. So that's all inked up, and I'm going to do that coming out of this side of the jug like that. Right. Now I'm going to do I'm going to do the shepherd's purse next. Shepherd's purse, we're going to do a bit of green tea at the bottom, graduating up to some of the split pea at the top. Just going to stamp it up there, just coming out. And then I think I'm going to go for a forget-me-not. So if you have any questions about anything I'm doing, then do please leave your questions in the comments and I'll do my best to answer. But hopefully these videos are going to answer a lot of the questions that I've had from customers, because videos are such a great way to show all the techniques that I use. Okay, so another forget-me-not up here. Then I think we're going to do one more forget-me-not. Inking it up again with the icicle ink pad in the lighter blue and little bits of the darker blue. And then a bit of green tea as well. And maybe a little bit of split pea on the bottom. There we go. And this is the little leaves stamp, which works quite well with this design. So I'm going to do a bit of the little leaves. Like that at the bottom. And I think we're ready to move over to the other jug. And I'm going to start with the other bluebell stamp, I think. So we're going to do some green tea again at the bottom. Sometimes you can use the whole ink pad as well, like that. It's a bit trickier, this bluebell, to get the colour on, so I think I'm going to put the green tea on it. And a little bit of split pea. And then I'm going to use a cotton bud to wipe off the blue, the green rather. You could use something like kitchen roll as well if you haven't got any cotton buds. You can fold kitchen roll into a point and use it to wipe ink off. Okay. There we are. And I'm going to do a few forget-me-nots. Doesn't really need to all be exact where the colour goes on these tiny stamps. There we go. And I'll do another one over here. It's always great to hear in the comments as well about any ideas you have for stamp designs that are missing from my collection, because I always like to be working on new stamp designs. I'll do this one over here. So there's 3 different forget-me-nots, and I'm using all 3 of them on this. You can see how useful the daubers are with these stamps. And then I think I'm going to use a few of the tiny leaves. Just to fill in a few little spaces on this one. Nearly done now, I think. So if you've enjoyed this video, please do give me a like, and you can hit subscribe and hit the bell icon as well if you'd like to be notified when I made a new video. And I think that's finished now. So all we need to do now is remove the masking tape, and that's all done. So any questions, do write any questions in the comments and I'll answer those. So I'm going to remove the masking tape quite gently. And then you can see there's like a bit of a, it just makes a bit more of a natural line if you tear the masking tape. There we go. There, that's all finished.